Hello friends, today we get a review of something that's not a Marvel Legend for once. It is the Bruce Lee action figure from Diamond Select. So here is Bruce Lee out of the package, friends, and even though it doesn't say it on the package, this is totally Bruce Lee from Enter the Dragon, if I'm not mistaken. If you haven't seen Enter the Dragon, you totally should, because it's a film basically about Bruce Lee going to an island and killing a bunch of people and ninjas and stuff. It's pretty cool. Anyways, the sculpt on this guy is pretty good from the neck down. Unfortunately, if we take a close look at that face, Gentle Giant, if you didn't know, sculpts stuff digitally on computers, and when you do that a lot, you tend to miss a lot of things. Look at the hairline there when it meets his face. Like, I don't know about you, but I just find that, like, laughably bad, the way it looks. Like, there's just something off about it. The hair looks like a wig, kind of. I mean, you know, Bruce Lee had a lot of hair. It was kind of shaggy. It's hard to get. Maybe it's because I'm used to figures where the hair is like a separate rubber piece that's like been glued on, or Marvel Legends where it's like a little more comic booky looking. But like, this does not look realistic. Does this look realistic to you? And did Bruce Lee have big bushy eyebrows? Bushy Lee? Like, what the heck is this? I mean, and then the lips. Look at me started on the lips. Like, okay. Maybe the sculpt on the face is kind of fine, like in terms of actor likeness, but it's a very soft sculpt. Like the features are just not well defined, and then that hairline is just pretty awful. But then we start talking about the paint. What's that on his cheek? That's slop right there. And then the big issue I have is the lipstick. Well, I guess it's not lipstick. It's just supposed to be like pink lips, but like there's a jagged line, if we can focus on it, at the bottom of his lip there, and it looks awful. I don't know what's going on with you guys, Diamond Select, but this is not really the quality work I would expect of you. Because, I mean, if NECA were doing this thing would be like the translucent skin, and it'd look pretty amazing, I think. But, I mean, the sculpt is decent below the neck. Like, look at that musculature. That is how Bruce Lee looked, and then the pants look really cool. They look like wrinkly, folded up, and bunched up pants, and little socks with the shoes down there. I mean, the sculpt below the neck's not bad, I think. Same with the paint, although it might just be because there's not too much of it below the neck. Like, all you really need is like the nipples and like various shades for skin tone. And then the pants have like this blue wash, which I feel like they probably didn't really need because his pants are just very black. But I mean, thankfully, it's very, very subtle. So I think the pants actually look kind of cool. Although when we get down here, the white paint on the socks looks kind of cheap, honestly. Like, I don't know what it is. It just looks kind of chalky to me. But I mean, that's fine. I can't really criticize that. It's just something off about it, and I can't put my finger on, but I'll definitely criticize that face with the lipstick that's all jagged at the bottom of the lip and the slap on the cheek there. That's not great, and the hairline, of course, looks really odd to me. But I think the face is my biggest issue, because the rest of the figure is pretty cool. I mean, the articulation, let's see, he's got a ball joint head, but there's no range. So I say the rest of the figure is pretty cool. Maybe I just mean in terms of how it looks, because there's no waist joint, there is an ab joint, gets that much side to side, and so much forward and back, which is not bad, but the head is so limited, like we saw earlier. Like, this is how far he can look up, that's how far he can look down. May as well not be a ball joint, Diamond Select. I mean, you get some side to side, but may as well just be a cut joint so you can swivel around, because that's all it's really good for. And then the shoulders have butterfly joints, but they don't move. I mean, what's going on here? This is moving the hinge in the shoulder, but butterfly joint, or whatever it is there, does not move. And if it's not a butterfly joint, it's just breaking up the sculpt for no reason at all, which is not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. But thankfully the hinges go up not bad, about 90, maybe a little less, unfortunately. And he's got bicep cuts and double elbows. Thank goodness we got double elbows at least. Delbows, I like to call them. Then we got hinge and swivel wrists, which get decent range. Those aren't bad. But I mean, the fact that the butterfly joints don't even work, the ball joint on the head's kind of bad. It could use like a hinge, like a Marvel Legend, like, you know, the cheap figures aimed at kids, kind of. Well, sort of. They're aimed at collectors. But like Diamond Select, you're exclusively the collector crowd. What gives? Put a hinge in there. I mean, Hasbro can do it with Marvel Legends. Why can't you? And no waist joint? I mean, I understand the diaphragm joint can swivel around, but you hear that squeaking and a creaking, that is not ideal for swiveling. Thankfully, the hips get a good amount of range, but they are loosey-goosey, which I don't really like, because he's probably not going to hold a pose like this very long over time. Cuts at the thighs work nicely. Single hinge knees, which, I mean, it's kind of disappointing, but thankfully the way they've implemented it, it blends with the sculpt pretty well, I feel, and gets decent range, so not too bad there. And then he's got Marvel Legends style sort of hinge and pivot ankles, which get a great deal of range, but it makes the part of his ankle is sticking out look a little unnatural, but I mean, it's fine. He gets good range at the ankles, good range at the single hinge knee, which surprises me because I like double elbows. I like double knees, but what they got here is good enough. It's just not good enough for the shoulders and the head and lack of a waist thing, really. The packaging for the Bruce Lee figure was pretty obviously inspired by Bruce Lee's tracksuit from Game of Death, well, the black and the yellow, but there's also this cool dragon logo, and if you're wondering the story what that is, it's on the back, which, I mean, it tells you this is the 80th anniversary of Bruce Lee, first of all, which is kind of a weird thing to say, because it's like it's the 80th anniversary of the guy from when he was born is usually called like his birthday. It'd be his 80th birthday if he was still alive, if that makes any sense. But the dragon logo, getting back to the topic, was a design that Bruce Lee ordered for a custom desk he was making. So, there's a whole story here if you want to read it. But essentially, Lee came up with this logo for his own personal desk, for his own personal use. So it's kind of like his own personal logo. I guess Diamond Select Toys felt. So they're like, well, this isn't like, you know, an Enter the Dragon or Game of Death figure, even though it's totally him from Enter the Dragon, but you know, it's Bruce Lee by himself, so we got to come up with a logo just for Bruce Lee. But anyways, packaging gets the job done. Let's open it up. There's just one big piece of tape up here, and inside we get like a paint streak in the card art. Whatever. The tray is this two-sided thing that wastes a lot of space vertically, actually, if you ask me. But it's got tape on the sides, which is kind of annoying because it's also got these little things that are just meant to snap together to hold it. But I guess they weren't good enough because they didn't design the tray well enough. So you gotta cut some tape as well. Is that the only piece? No, there's another piece here. Of course, tape's gotta be super hard to see. There we go. But once you get that out of the way, that comes out pretty easy, pretty collector friendly. Although I will say how they package the accessories here and rubber banded these two together is kind of warping the nunchucks up here. But we'll talk about that when we get to the accessories, which we're at right now. So Bruce Lee comes with a pair of nunchucks, which are kind of bendy, but sculpted like they're supposed to be held straight. And another pair of nunchucks that are just as bendy and floppy, but they are sculpted like they're meant to be an angle and have this cool little swish effect on them. Then he gets a big old stick and 4 alternate hands, a pair of them as fists, and a pair of them that are in this sort of kung fu, I guess you could call it, like a pose. Like this is like a death grip, I guess, and this is just like sort of a more graspy thing. Honestly, I think he should have come with the fists on his hands because they're just kind of generic, like grabbing hands. Or at least maybe martial arts. The martial arts hands he should have come packaged wearing, or I don't know. And then I almost forgot he comes with a base. Kind of greasy looking. Is that for me? Did I pull out a package that way? Or my finger's greasy? I don't know, but it's only got one peg. You can put his foot on there. It's very slippery. In fact, that peg is not too stiff, but actually, space is also kind of small for this guy. Kind of works when you use it like that. Trying to put both feet on is just annoying and slippery, and yeah, I mean, wow, of course, don't start complaining, it actually works. This, I mean, it's kind of working, and it's not a very good pose he's in. I mean, it's not the best base. I'll tell you what you do with this. Take this, throw it away, come back with one of these NECA stands. Oh, look, actually doesn't fall out of his foot. Oh, wow, first try. And he doesn't even look like he's a giant when he's standing on it. Those are a lot better than the thing Diamond Select gave us, but I mean, their base is alright, I guess, if you have nothing else. Anyways, let's try and get him holding those nunchucks, which we'll put the base away for now because this is a famous scene where he's breaking in the bad guy's lair and he grabs the nunchucks from that one goon, I guess you'd call him a henchman, and he just like does this awesome display, and you think like that henchman's gonna run away because like, wow, Bruce Lee is a professional with the nunchucks, and the goon stupidly attacks him with his tiny little stick, and yeah, he can hold them so he looks like he's stretching them out and kind of making them straight. I mean, I like that we got the chain and it's kind of bendy, but like they could have put a bendy wire or done a real chain. That would have been a lot cooler. It's kind of weird how there's like black paint in there in the chain links. I don't know, but it's pretty cool on this one with the swoosh effect. Let's see if we can get Bruce holding it in kind of a cool position. I mean, like it doesn't fit that tightly in his hands, and the other hands are sculpted to hold it, but like, I mean, that looked kind of cool for a second until it fell down, right? Oh, there we go! It's not a bad accessory if I do say so myself. But probably the best accessories are those alternate hands. I don't mean to go in order from worst to best, but that stand is pretty garbage, and then the nunchucks could be a lot better. But I mean, thankfully, Bruce Lee's alternate hands pop in and out pretty easy. they look pretty good, and those are a pretty dynamic pose there. Let's put the other kung fu hand in. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty much the same with the fists, but, like, the hands get the job done, unlike the stand, and they don't leave anything to be desired, really, like the nunchucks do, so the hands are a-okay. Honestly, we got a good quantity of accessories for this price point. I'm pretty pleased, even if the nunchucks are kind of disappointing and that stand is useless. If the stand hadn't even come with it, I'd still be happy. This is a good number of accessories, I'd say. Glad we got fists, too. Not bad, Diamond Select. Time for the scale. Now, Diamond Select is a company which does stuff in the 7-inch scale, and Bruce Lee is exactly 7 inches tall, or 18 centimeters if you prefer. Which means he's way too big to fit in with your 6-inch scale superhero figures and stuff like that. So do I ultimately recommend this Bruce Lee figure, friends? Well, if the head sculpt weren't so bad, I might, but honestly, all the other little issues just kind of add up to no for me. I would steer clear of this figure. It might look good at first glance, but then you take a closer look at that head and you realize it's a little bit disappointing, and the hands don't grip the accessories tightly. The articulation has a lot of flaws, like the loose hips, the butterfly joints being stuck, there's no waist, the head doesn't look up and down really. It's just so many missed opportunities. Same thing with the accessories. The nunchucks, like, no, not posable, not a real chain, nothing there. I mean, it's kind of like some of the worst decisions you could make. Like, you could either put a bendy wire in here, or you could put a real chain and it'd be cool. But they're like, let's do neither of those. And it's like, you could put butterfly joints in and break up the sculpt a little, but at least get more range in the arms. Or you could leave them out and the sculpt is not broken up and you get less range. They're like, nah, let's put them in, but not have the range. Also, it's, I don't know, a lot of annoying little things like that and little problems and little quality control issues are going to make this a no for me. Well, until next time, peace out, YouTube.